Hello everyone. We're going to talk about plant nutrient deficiency symptoms today. So today we are going to identify different nutrient deficiency symptoms in the plant and how we are going to correct these deficiency symptoms. So nutrient is a chemical compound required by the plant, and there are 16 essential nutrients where the plant cannot perform normally or their biochemical functions without these nutrients. So there are two types, macronutrients and micronutrients. So these 16 essential nutrients are required for the plant to perform normal growth and development. So what will happen if these essential elements are inadequate? So these plants will show specific symptoms in the absence of these nutrients, because these nutrients have a special role to play in the plant. If this is lacking, that starts showing a symptom in a specific area, specific part of the plant, to indicate that the plant needs these nutrients now. So if we know what is lacking, we can supply. So these essential elements or the deficiency symptoms arise due to inadequate supply of essential elements. We can correct them by supplying that required nutrient. So to treat the plants with the required nutrient, we need to identify what is deficient first. So today we are going to identify major features, major characteristics, the symptoms of the plant um, for different essential elements, essential nutrients. Um, then we can do treatments accordingly. So nitrogen is an essential element, macronutrient, and a mobile nutrient. So nitrogen is a major constituent in amino acids, proteins, nucleic acids, and enzymes, and also it is an integral part of the chlorophyll molecule. So without this nitrogen component in the plant, plants start showing many drawbacks, because it is a part of the chlorophyll molecule, so it will affect the photosynthesis and many more features. So nitrogen is taken up by the plant in the form of ammonium and nitrates. And what will happen if the nitrogen supply is excess? So there are conditions where we can see the symptoms if the supply is inadequate, as well as we can see some symptoms or some features, some characteristics if the supply of nitrogen is excess. So if the nitrogen supply is excess, what happens? It will promote a heavy vegetative growth. So it will have a prominent vegetative period, and this high amount of nitrogen will create succulent plant. So because of that reason, the plant can't stay upright, so there will be lots of plant lodging due to the heavy amount of nitrogen in the plant. And this succulent nature will attract most of the pests and diseases, so it delays the crop maturity, reduce the yield, and directly affect the plant growth and performance, the development. And then let's see what will happen if this essential nutrient, nitrogen, is inadequate. So the major symptom you will see is the yellowing of leaves, and also you will see a growth retardation, the stunted growth, and you will see low yield, because nitrogen is a constituent uh, of chlorophyll. So it will, if the chlorophyll synthesis is retarded, it will directly affect the photosynthesis, and also it will affect the protein synthesis, because it is a part of an important part. Nitrogen is an important part, and also The inadequate nitrogen supply will create poor tillering and cause small grains. So now let's see what will happen with the inadequate supply of phosphorus. So usually phosphorus is very important for plant root growth. So what happens if the phosphorus is not in the quantity which is adequate for the plant? So a very characteristic feature of this deficiency is the the burning of the leaf tips. So if the leaf tip look burnt appearance, followed by the old leaves turning a dark green or reddish purple color. So it is a symptom of a phosphorus deficiency. So now let's see what will happen to the plant if potassium is inadequate. So the inadequate supply of potassium will create yellow color leaves appearing from the margins towards the inside. We go inwards scorching from the leaf margin, and also we will see some necrotic spots, which is the dead tissues, and the marginal necrosis on the older leaves, like the burnt appearance. So this is this is mostly occurred in older leaves because this is a macronutrient. So as you all know, so if a macronutrient is deficient, the symptoms are firstly visible on older leaves because you know the nutrients are transferred towards the young leaves from the mature leaves. But if the nutrients is deficient, the deficiency is shown in the older leaves in the first case. The magnesium deficiency, so the inadequate supply of magnesium will show an intervenal chlorosis. So the veins stay green and the intervenal areas become light green to yellow. And you will see like the venal areas, you will see like the green color arrowheads because just the veins remains green. And the calcium, it is also a macronutrient, essential nutrient. And what happens if the calcium supply is inadequate? You will see this symptom: the young tips, young shoots, dying backward, the die back of the shoots, and also you will see distorted, irregularly shaped leaves. And in fruits, you will see the blossom end rot in fruits, and there are conditions you will see yellow brown spots surrounded by a sharp brown outline edge. And sometimes as it is appeared in the margins, you will think, oh, it could be potassium, but we can we can directly say that this is calcium if you observe these yellow brown spots surrounded by the sharp brown outline. So this could be calcium, not potassium. And what will happen if the sulfur is deficient? So in the immature leaves, you will see very pale green color or yellow color first appear in the young leaves. You know, if it is the nitrogen, usually this green color appear in the older leaves, but if it is sulfur, that pale green color appears in the young leaves. Now let's see how we can treat these macronutrient deficiencies. So you may have heard about fertilizers. So fertilizers are the substances intended for improving the nutrition of the plant, and it will promote the growth by increasing plant mass and the yield. So if we found a deficiency symptom in the plant and if we treat with a fertilizer, actually we can correct. If we correctly identify the deficiency symptom and if we correctly apply the correct nutrient with that fertilizer, we can correct that deficiency symptom in most cases the plant. So let's see what type of fertilizers do we use to correct these or to improve the nutrient conditions in the plant. So usually uh, for nitrogen fertilizers, so to give nitrogen, we mainly apply urea, which contains about 46% of nitrogen in it. And also to give nitrogen, we apply ammonium sulfate, where it contains about 21% of nitrogen. And there are phosphorus fertilizers. Um, Common application is triple superphosphate, we call TSP, uh, which contains 46% phosphorus pentoxide. So this is what the usual standard in Sri Lanka. And also we have rock phosphate. So we have a powder rock phosphate, which contains about 30% of P2O5. And there are potassium fertilizers. So the main one we use is muriate of potash, which is potassium chloride, and the abbreviation we use MOP, and it contains about 60% of K2O, potassium oxide. And also another fertilizer we use sulfate of potash, or potassium sulfate. So it contains about 50% of K2 again. Then there are other nutrients in the fertilizer, but mainly we get potassium out of this fertilizer. There are magnesium fertilizers, which is magnesium sulfate, kieserite, Epsom salt, and also dolomite. And there are calcium fertilizers, gypsum, which contains about 23% of calcium, and also dolomite provide calcium and both calcium and magnesium as well. Okay, now let's see micronutrient deficiencies of the plants. So micronutrients are also essential nutrients, but need in smaller quantities for the plant to perform the normal plant growth and development. So the special thing here is the availability of the micronutrients for the plant can be changed with the soil pH values. So the availability or the micronutrient deficiencies, we need to evaluate. We need to do some plant tissue analysis to confirm the micronutrient deficiencies, and then we need to identify what nutrient is deficient. When we compare this table, when we look at this figure, we can see with the pH value, um, the nutrient availability will differ. So usually boron, copper, iron, manganese, zinc decrease with the increase in pH from about 5 to 7. And also we can see that the availability of molybdenum increases with increases of pH. So likewise, depending on the soil pH value, the availability of these micronutrients for the plant will differ. So we need to do a tissue analysis, the plant tissue analysis, to see what nutrients are lacking for the plant, and then we have to do what is needed to correct these deficiencies. So you have to identify the nutrient that we need to apply for the plant. So this is an example from my research fields. So this is a report taken for my sweet potato leaf analysis, like just after planting, after a couple of weeks, I need to figure out what type of fertilizers, what type of nutrients I need to supply for the plants. For that, I did a tissue analysis, so I could figure out what type of nutrients are already in the plant, and I know what type of nutrients actually this plant require. So I identify the gap, so what is lacking, and then I usually correct these deficiencies by applying the required fertilizer. So we have to have kind of a plant analysis report to identify especially these micronutrient deficiencies in the plant. So this is a summary. So the macronutrients, there are micronutrients depending on the quantity that is required by the plant, and all these essential nutrients, the inadequate supply of essential plant nutrients show specific deficiency symptoms. So by identifying the deficiency symptom correctly, we can decide what nutrients we need to apply, and then we can correct these deficiency symptoms in the plant. So if the mobile nutrients are deficient, usually the symptoms appear first in the older leaves, and if it is a deficiency in immobile nutrient, the deficiency symptoms first appear in the young tissues, young leaves. So this is just a rough guide for you to understand. So you can do further reading. You can go to the field and take some samples and then try to compare the features, the symptoms that these plants have, and try to figure out what kind of deficiencies do these plants have. And please use uh, references, the books, different university websites to figure out what deficiencies correctly these are. So I think you got some knowledge from this video. So thank you very much.